Okay, so 4 months ago I checked out a bunch of canceled DreamWorks movies, and I really enjoyed doing that. So amongst my years in animation, my Every Game series, some of the one-offs I do, I thought I'd check out some other canceled projects from other companies and studios. Alright, so let's lead by saying DreamWorks had some of the weird ones, alongside some of the most iconic from the canceled movies fandom. Sony Pictures Animation had some weird ones, man. My god, these are the guys who said yes to the Emoji Movie, think about that. Of course, some of these just didn't need to happen, but some of them are, like with DreamWorks, iconic in terms of canceled movies. Alright, so here's how we'll do this. Some good steady growth here on YouTube, so let's see if we can't make 50 likes happen. 50 likes and I'll cover Nickelodeon movies next. Let's get into it. Alf. Ah yes, I need phallic imagery added to my schedule. Alf is a pretty iconic sitcom following a dick-nosed alien named Alf crash landing on Earth and living with the family, hiding from the government, and engaging in all sorts of wacky adventures. The series was pretty damn popular during its late 80s, early 90s run. And such in 2012, when the world was doing, dear god, anything but talking about Alf, Sony Pictures Animation wanted to make a live-action hybrid film based on the property, akin to their pretty popular Smurfs movie. Alf's a puppet. And this was a year after the Muppets just had a pretty decent hit with their own film. Puppet filmmaking was still fairly popular. So why make a live-action hybrid film when, to be fair, I claim the Smurfs movie was popular in that it made decent bucks, not that it was a good movie, it actually sucks. So why try that again when critically it didn't work? And with a property like Alf, I think it would have bombed even worse with audiences than it did with Smurfs. Thankfully, Sony most likely gave it up, though it was said that Warner Brothers was gonna take over the project. Warner Brothers can barely release their movies. What makes you think they could release someone else's? No, Warner Brothers was going to do a TV reboot series, but it was canceled shortly after announcement. No reasons were given as to why this never came to light, but honestly, I'm okay with it not existing.
Suit the law. The gas is on. I forgot to light the oven. Oh well. Better late than never.
I've been roaming around, always looking down.
Astro Boy. Now I know what you're thinking. What? Sony Pictures Animation was going to do Astro Boy? Yep, this was one of the first films proposed for the company, actually. Open season? Astro Boy. Of course, Sony just rejected it, and plans were scrapped. Okay, now, Emoji Studios made an Astro Boy film in 2009, and that resulted with... I don't know, the mindset Sony had with their actual debut film, I don't know if this one had a shot. Big Nasty. That title's fucking hilarious. In 2004, Sony hired Don D. Scott. Where have I heard that name before? The guy behind the barbershop films? Well, they hired him to do a musical comedy called Big Nasty. The film was slated for around 2007 and would have included a bunch of micro-animals. Believe it or not, from 2007 onwards, no updates were given, not even officially canceling the film. Only when a character designer on the film posted stuff on ArtStation confirming the film's cancellation in 2020 did we finally learn Big Nasty's fate. I have no idea how to feel about this one. Can you imagine? Genndy Tartakovsky's projects at Sony are like Kenny from South Park. Oh my god, they killed Popeye! You bastards! Can You Imagine was a project from Genndy Tartakovsky, who was pretty well known at Sony for his Hotel Transylvania films. The film would have followed one boy's imagination, such the title. Now, it was supposed to release on July 13th, 2018. Does that date sound familiar? Maybe Joe Jonas as a Kraken will help you out. If I had a nickel for every consecutive video I've talked about one of the Jonas Brothers, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but I fucking hate the Jonas Brothers. Yeah, Tartakovsky decided to shift focuses to the third Hotel Transylvania film, which released on that exact day, month, and year, which leads most to believe Hotel Transylvania 3 replaced Can You Imagine. I think from the little material we have on this, we were pretty robbed. Okay, imagination isn't anything new in kids' films, but this could have been really well put together. I don't know, I feel robbed. I mean, can you imagine?
Imagine if Ninja got a low taper face.
Oh my god, ow.
Shut the fuck up.
Chickenhare. In July 2011, Sony Pictures Animation announced an adaptation of the Dark Horse comic, Chickenhare, which I have never read. Cancellation reasons are fairly unknown, but from what I could gather, plans just didn't work out, and author Chris Grind confirmed on his Twitter that the film was cancelled. Now, in 2022, InWave ended up doing their own take on the comic. InWave, why does that name sound familiar? Oh, fuck! I haven't seen the 2022 version. What's it like? Oh, mama, I've got to see this movie. I'm not sure how to feel about this one, especially when you consider how little production material we have. I don't know. Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 3. Cloudy with a Chance of D's Nuts. The third Cloudy film was in planning stages, but alongside never being greenlit by Sony, a big hack was going on. Not to mention filmmakers Phil Lord and Christopher Miller were busy overworking their employees and also on the Lego movie. I don't think we lost anything here. I like the first Cloudy film, but the second was just so weak. So yeah, I can live with this one never coming out.
How you gonna get him off, nerd?
Connected. Okay, so this one doesn't really count as canceled, but it's an interesting switch up I actually lived to see. So we all know the peak that was known as Mitchell's vs. the Machines, right? Well, it was initially called Connected, even having that title all the way up until the film's eventual release in 2021 with the title we know today. Now, obviously this film exists and it's pretty well liked, but there are a few things to note. The title was changed due to director Michael Rianda, alongside Netflix, thinking the title just didn't make sense. And due to various delays in Sony selling the rights to Netflix, it was bound to change. Nothing really different between Connected and the film we got other than the title, just an interesting little tidbit in Sony's history.
Dad? How we doing on finding that bathroom?
Emoji Movie, Express Yourself. See, how the f did Sony expect the Emoji Movie to be good when this was the original title? Like Connected, this was really more of a rewrite. It would have most likely had the same plot, but a few cast members were notably considered before what we got. Jordan Peele was offered the role of Poop. This is f***ing hilarious, because he cited the offer as the reason he started directing, even making his directorial debut the same year Emoji Movie came out. Alana Glazer was also offered the role of Jailbreak, but she was replaced by Anna Faris for unknown reasons. I feel like either would have fit the character fine, but Faris I think was the better choice. Obviously the director and writers weren't impressed with the title. Try saying that in a trailer. Coming this summer, Emoji Movie, Express Yourself.
Okay, who wrote this, okay? Oh, the guys who did Spider-Man? That one, fuck!
I mean, I don't think much could have saved the Emoji Movie, but if that title's anything to go by, maybe this movie was just doomed from the start. Fixed. Okay, so this one doesn't really count since there's no word of it being canceled officially. Sony was working on an adult animated comedy titled Fix, which apparently would have followed this dog knowing he's about to get his nuts snipped, and enjoying his last day beforehand. Now, I followed this film's production for a bit, but never heard if it was canceled or not. What we do know is, if it's not canceled, it's not going to be from Sony. Sony Pictures Animation apparently handed production to, okay, it's canceled, Harold and the Purple Crayon. Okay, so far the most iconic of these cancellations would probably be Can You Imagine or Chickenhare, but Harold and the Purple Crayon is by far one of the most iconic from Sony. In 2010, it was reported that Columbia Pictures, Sony Pictures Animation, and Overbrook Entertainment, Will Smith's company, were developing a CGI adaptation of Harold and the Purple Crayon, Crockett Johnson's iconic book. With producers Smith and James Lasseter and writers Josh Klausner and Dallas Clayton, unfortunately plans fell through and many speculate it's because Sony lost interest in the film. That's cute. Yeah, so 14 years after anything was even heard from this film, suddenly you make a Harold and the Purple Crayon adaptation that's not CG animated, stars that fucking loser and really loses the idea of the book. Hey Sony, you dropped this. I would have liked to see the CG version, but oh well. Sony made sure this was our definitive Harold film. God, I hate you, Zachary Levi. How to Survive a Garden Gnome Attack. Okay, now we're getting into some deep shit. This would have been a live-action CGI film based on the Chuck Sambucino book. Get this, there were talks of Robert Zemeckis directing it, and it would have been, no joke, Sony Pictures' first R-rated film. The book is, of course, a survival guide to help you prevent, prepare for, and ward off garden gnome home invasions. I've never read the book, but it seems like this would have been right up Sony's alley. They're better with the weirdo stories, and as of why this was canceled, it's unknown. I love on the Canceled Movies Wiki, a result of this movie's cancellation is that Sausage Party became the first R-rated Sony animated film. I have no idea why that's so funny to me. The garden gnomes got cucked by Seth Rogen's wiener. I think this would have been cool, but considering how Sony handled their actual first R rating, I don't know about this one. Kazorn and the Unicorn. Alright, in June 2012, it was reported that the late Kelly Asbury was in talks with Sony to make an animated fantasy called Kazorn and the Unicorn. Not much is known here. We have a few production images and storyboards, and it's said that the film was still in production at least until 2013. It's unknown why it was cancelled though. Many point to Sony's focused work on Smurfs 2, god damn it. Looking at the production material, I think this would have been cool, but I'm indifferent here. Manimal. Oh boy, this one's weird. In September 2012, it was reported that Sony was developing a live-action CGI film based on the show Manimal. The series creator and producer Glenn A. Larson was once again set to produce the film as he did the series. It was also reported 2 years later in July 2014 that Will Ferrell and Adam McKay would also produce the film through Gary Sanchez Productions. Now, we have a plethora of reasons this one never made it to light. The biggest one is that Glenn A. Larson sadly passed in 2014. Also, the show sucked. Yeah, it was panned when it came out. Why does Sony want to make a film based on a show that, at most, might have a cult following? It should also be known, Gary Sanchez Productions closed in 2019 after McKay and Ferrell had a falling out over the show Winning Time. I strangely wanted to see this happen. Manimal is a prime show for tweaking. Like, if you want to reboot something or remake or adapt an old show or movie, why not one that didn't do too hot at first? It's honestly a topic I feel would completely flip the whole reboot word into something positive. Of course Disney just remade Snow White, why wouldn't they? Open season 4. Alright, so I don't know how legitimate this is. The page on the Canceled Movies Wiki seems oddly fan-fiction-y, so I'll just mention that with the runaway hit open season was, Sony would have been the biggest fools not to make 20 sequels and 5 spin-offs all within the decade. And after their mega hit with Open Season 3 winning at the box office and winning Best Animated Feature that year, Open Season 4 was imminent. It was initially developed around 2011, but Sony knew the world just wasn't ready for Open Season 4. I mean, we were all in awe at the Oppenheimer levels of Open Season 3. Oppenheimer 3. How could they follow it up so quickly? Eventually, the world was saved in 2015 as Open Season 4 eventually became Open Season Scared Silly, the best animated film of 2015, no competition. Perhaps one day, Sony will grace our presence once more with Open Season 5. Playmobil the Movie. Yep. The very Playmobil movie I just dogged on last Friday, Playmobil the Movie, was initially developed by Sony. However, Sony somewhat contributed to the downfall of this film as they decided to focus on Into the Spider-Verse. Good call. Popeye. Alright, next to Harold and the Purple Crayon, I think this is the most iconic when it comes to Sony's canceled projects. Another project helmed by Genndy Tartakovsky. As the name suggests, this was a CG animated film based on the popular Popeye comics and cartoon. As many know, there's a notable animation test online, which serves as the only footage we have of this film. Now obviously, no doubt, this is one of the most notorious when it comes to Sony's canceled projects. And man, I wanted to see this come to light. The animation test has that fluent, goofy vibe that the Hotel Transylvania films have. Needless to say, considering this was most likely canceled in favor of movies like Angry Birds and Emoji Movie, we were robbed. Rabbids. Yeah, so Ubisoft approached Sony Pictures Animation regarding a live-action hybrid. Oh, was that the only thing Sony thought they could make? Did they just think Smurfs was the way of the future? That's bleak. The project eventually moved to Lionsgate in 2019, and oh boy, we know how they handle video game movies. If or when the Rabbids film does drop, hopefully it's at least better than Borderlands and doesn't have Jack Black. God, could you imagine if he was in the Rabbids movie? That is the moon! Your species must come from it because you're both white. Yeah, the plot of Rabbids Go Home is fucking stupid, I know. Well, I mean, Rabbids getting a movie might have been a stupid idea, but at least they didn't try a RollerCoaster Tycoon movie. RollerCoaster Tycoon. Huh? Bro. Yeah, in May of 2010, a CGI movie based on the 1999 smash hit theme park simulator was rumored to be in development at Sony Pictures Animation. What would the story have been? It's a simulator game. What would you have done? Would Jack Black have been there? God damn it, I'm bringing him back into this. Superbago. This one's interesting. This was intended to be a stop-motion live-action hybrid. Okay, those are pretty rare. All that's known is that it was supposed to be a superhero wannabe film, and no cancellation reasons were given. Alongside the fact that there's barely any production material on it, my guess, it was pitched but never greenlit. Surf's Up 2. I know what you're thinking. Xander, there is a Surf's Up 2.
Say it again.
No, apparently a theatrical version was planned for release around the 2009-2011 range. But Surf's Up didn't have the best box office, so plans for a sequel were scrapped, and 10 years later this garbage came out. I would have liked to see this version come out, and if you dare say, well Xander, you can just watch the Surf's Up 2 that did come out.
Say it again.
Tam Linn. Okay, so this one's pretty interesting. In 2003, 2 adaptations of the Scottish legend Tam Linn were announced. Disney initially rejected it due to Michael Eisner having some corporate issues with Roy E. Disney. Now, one of the directors of the adaptation that came to Sony was Britta Chapman, who eventually would co-direct Sony's debut project, Open Season. I'm not familiar with the Scottish legend, but I hear a lot of people would have liked to see this one happen. The Familiars. In 2009, Sony acquired the rights to the Adam J. Epstein-Andrew Jacobson novel, The Familiars, with plans to start production the following year. In 2013, both co-directors Doug Sweetland and Fergal Riley left to work on different respective projects. Riley left to work on the Angry Birds movie, while Sweetland left Sony to work on Warner Bros. Animation's Storks. Both of these seen release in 2016. I haven't read The Familiars, so I have no idea how to feel about this one, but it could have been interesting. The Smurfs 3. Ah, fuck, I don't live in a world where Smurfs 3 exists? What's the point? Okay, yeah, this one really doesn't matter, but let's talk about it. After the release of the first film in 2011 and the second film in 2013, Sony wanted to make their hybrid Smurfs films a trilogy in 2015. All that's known about the plot is that the Smurfs would have traveled back in time. Okay, weird, but could they go to the future and stop this shit from happening?
Influencer.
Yacht! Yeah! Now, 2 major things made Sony realize this was probably a mistake. The first was the death of Jonathan Winters, the voice of Papa Smurf in the films. He died of natural causes in 2013 before this film could have been made. Oh, and the second was, God, what's the word I'm thinking of? Oh yeah, the Smurfs movies suck. Moving on. Untitled Crash Bandicoot film. In 2015, there were talks of a Crash Bandicoot adaptation at Sony. This was only a few blog posts and nothing really official from Sony, so I don't know how much of this is true. But in 2023, following the success of the Mario movie, Toys for Bob stated they wouldn't mind seeing a jokey film adaptation of Crash in the future. I think Crash has a lot of potential as a film. Just don't let him talk. And if this fucker somehow makes it on the cast, we're doomed. That is a Wampa fruit. I have no idea what it does. That is a box. You hit it so Crash won't get hit upside the head like a punching bag. Aku Aku. Untitled Tonka film. Alright, the last film I found interesting, an Untitled Tonka film. In 2012, there were talks of a Tonka film. Once again, very little on this. I don't know, I just want to talk about Tonka, man. You guys remember the old little PC games? Oh man, those were cool. I had a couple of the toys too, man. Man, I can take me back. Also, do you guys want me to do more of those PC games like I did with the Brother Bear game a few months ago? I'd like to. I mean, I don't know. Well, I really enjoyed looking at the different canceled projects of these companies, and if you do too, please subscribe and keep notifications on to receive updates on all of my videos. All your support means absolutely everything to me, and I'm glad to see the growth we've seen. Alright, the Sam and Max ranking comes out next Friday, I promise.
I love you, Hugh Bliss.
Hi, I'm not Hugh Bliss.
I hate you.
Say it.
No. It's a subscribe to Gabe.
Fuck you, bitch.